right, what is going on? Good morning. Happy Monday morning. It is the last podcast of the year. Naturally, it is the 30th today. So happy New Year's Eve to everybody that's listening to this. I hope your morning's going well. I'm assuming you're listening to this on Monday morning. That's when it drops. If you didn't know that, then now you know. So, yeah, but whatever time you're listening to this, I hope that you're doing well. I hope that everything's going well. It is obviously recording this a little bit ahead of time. It's Friday morning for me right now, the 27th. And, yeah, still just kind of getting back into the swing of things after the Christmas break and just kind of taking a few days off to rest and recover and, yeah, disconnect. Like I said on the last episode, I spent 4 or 5 days straight with no service. And, yeah, it was nice to just kind of unplug from social media and kind of feel, just a lot looser, a lot less stressed out. And so I'm going to try and carry some of that energy moving forward as well into the new year. But, before, I get into today's episode, I just wanted to just welcome anybody that's brand new to this show, that's never listened before, or you know what? I'd also like to thank everybody that's just joining us again. So yeah, I just wanted to, as this year closes out, I just wanted to kind of reconnect with some gratitude and just think about really you guys and just say thank you very much for rocking it with me, being here with me, being here for me, and being here for each other. Kind of just aligning with this community and just I guess helping remind people that no matter what it is that you're going through, you are not alone, and life can and will get better for you. So on that note, how is everybody doing today? I think so many times in life, I find myself having conversations because I nerd out about a lot of, like things that you can kind of tinker with or tamper with, or, just behavioral changes or supplemental changes or nutritional changes or, changes with my sleep. I'm always kind of like tinkering away with like, how can I optimize this? How can I make this? How can I get the most out of this? That's a lot of the time what I'm trying to think of is, I'm always in these conversations of like, oh, have you taken, ashwagandha, or have you taken valerian root, or have you, what do you do for sleep? What do you do for this? What do you, what kind of protein do you like to take before your work or after your work? There's always all these different like kind of like finite details and it's these complex conversations, and there's like all these different nuances. And the other day somebody asked me like, oh, do you find that like making this one specific change, like did you find that you got results from it? And I was actually thinking, a lot of the time it's tough to differentiate, how much results we get from a certain thing that we do, or how much we can attribute an improvement or how come I can't think of the word, like the opposite of improvement right now, but like a decrease in results, so the step in the wrong direction, how difficult it is to attribute a step in the wrong direction from a step in the right direction. And the reason why is because, if you think about it, if you say you're somebody that's trying to improve your sleep, for example, a lot of the times it's not just one thing that you're tinkering with. There's probably like many other fucking different factors, or, whether you're conscientious of them or not. When you're kind of making your analysis of if something's benefiting you or not. There's so many different factors in our lives, stress levels of what we got going on in our lives, just daily habits with like, I talk about screen time all the time and how that can mess up your sleep. And, just simple behaviors like what you eat, how late do you eat? How close to bedtime do you eat? What are you eating? What kinds of foods? What was your sleep like the night before? What was your activity level like? And then we're asking ourselves or thinking about like, oh, did this one supplement make that change that I started taking? Or, is it kind of just like a culmination of all these little small things that I've started to do? When we're looking at, making a change in our lives, when we're wanting to, improve the way we feel, improve the sleep that we're having, improve, just kind of the way we feel, or, maybe you have a specific goal of like, yeah, I want to lose 10 pounds of body fat, or hey, I want to gain 10 pounds of muscle, or, I want to, maybe you just, you have a specific goal that you want to get to in life. I think a lot of the times we're looking for, what's this one change that I can make? What's this one thing that I can do, to get the best results? Because that's always the way that my brain is looking for, is like, if I'm going to fucking do this, I want to get the most out of my effort that I possibly can. That's I want to reap the rewards. And so I think a lot of us, we think about, what's the one thing that I can change? And it's like, a lot of the times, if you're looking to do one specific thing, like improve your sleep, improve your physique, improve this, what your finances, your relationships, we're always looking for like that one thing, when really it's like you're probably going to have to make a change in a lot of different areas. And so it's less about, making that one specific change, and more about just changing like and I hate how woo-woo this sounds and like disconnected from reality it sounds, but it's like you kind of almost have to make that mindset shift of like, okay, like if I want to improve my sleep, then I'm going to tackle it from all areas. I'm going to tackle it from every single aspect of life. Like before we start to do the bolt-ons and the add-ons of like supplements and this and that, like let's get down to just the basics, revisit those. Like, am I moving enough during the day, like to warrant a good rest? Am I fueling my body up with the right things? Am I fueling it up at the right time? Am I waking up on time? Am I, there's all these different what kinds of things are you watching, staring at screens right before you go to bed? Are you watching something that's going to boost your heart rate? Are you doing something that kind of increases your dopamine levels and your heart rate levels and gives you kind of like a energetic boost? Like probably those things are not going to help you sleep. And so it's like, before we start to look at adding on, doing some bolt-on things and putting like a body kit on this car, like how about let's just get the engine running and get it purring, just get it fucking running well, and just get it like the you know what I mean? Maybe it's the dumbest fucking engine sound ever, but it's like we try and make all these like supplemental add-on, and even just like the word supplement in and of itself says it. Like it's supplemental. It's not like replacement. It's not, it's something that you add on when you're already kind of doing the rest of the things, and then want to get like the optimized version. Because if you're just like kind of optimizing first and then you're not actually improving like the baseline thing, then you don't really have anywhere else to go from there. It's like, well, now I just have to make all these like drastic improvements. Like, you know what I mean? Does that kind of make sense? I hope that kind of makes sense for people. Like, I think that a lot of the time when we want to improve our lives, and I was talking about sleep earlier, but I think that this kind of coincides with, and I've been using that word a lot, and I don't actually really know what it means, but I think that this theme or this idea, basically it permeates into every other area of your life. Like, it's not just about sleep, but even just in general. Like, if you want to feel good, if you want to feel better, if you want to be a happier, healthier person, physically, mentally, spiritually, everything like that, then you can't neglect a certain area of your life. You can't neglect that. And I think that so many times people on either side try and neglect one side of it. There's the intellectuals, quote unquote intellectuals, who want to ignore the fact that, physical output and physical labor, things like exercise, like rigorous exercise, pushing your body to its limits, is just as beneficial as hitting the books and thinking about these things and making yourself smarter and more disciplined mentally. These things go hand in hand. And so there's people on one side who are just kind of just the doers, the quote unquote doers that are out there just doing the thing. but then they can't actually intellectualize what they're doing. They can't actually like convey that idea. They can maybe conceptualize it in their own head, but because they fail to discipline their minds and expand their vocabulary and think about different ways of thinking about things and understanding why people have different perspectives or how they could have different perspectives, those types of things, because they're in the physical world and not in the intellectual world. They can do the thing, but they can't convey how to do the thing to other people. So it's kind of one side of it. And then the other side of it is the intellectuals who neglect the physical, rigorous pushing their bodies as much as they push their minds. And so they can think of the concepts and they can convey all these beautiful ideas, but they can't actually demonstrate and they can't actually do it. And so that's a lot less inspiring for others. It's a lot less motivating for others. And it doesn't actually give us the real world example of like, yes, this is physically possible and I'll demonstrate how, and then I'll demonstrate how you can do it as well. And I think that to really honestly feel better and then help others feel better, you can't neglect either side. You have to kind of be in both sides of that. And then as well, there's obviously a spiritual aspect of it as well. But just kind of like this idea, I think that you kind of get where I'm going with this. I think that a lot of us, and this is something that I've done throughout all my life in different times, but like we kind of feel like we can kind of work hard in one area to make up for and neglect like kind of a different area of our lives. And I think that ultimately we're all lying to ourselves when we tell ourselves that, like to think that we can feel good, feel optimal, feel happy, feel fulfilled without actually satisfying one of the main functions of our bodies, of our minds, is completely insane. Like it just doesn't make sense whatsoever. And so the reason that I think that that's kind of important or something to think about is because I think that a lot of us, at this time of the year start to reflect. We start to think back on not just the year that we just had, but many years in the past and things that we feel good about, but also things we feel bad about, things we might feel guilt or shame about, things we might feel proud about. You go through all these different reflections, and I'm not sure kind of where your head's at. It's December 30th, so like let's be real. A lot of us are doing some of this reflection, and so I'm not sure where your head could be at, whether it's like kind of in the positive, thinking about things that you're proud of, or maybe it's in the negative, thinking about things that you feel guilt or shame about, or maybe it's kind of like a mix of both. You kind of just float in between. That's where I am a lot of the time. Like it's kind of, I ride the highs of like, oh man, remember this time? This is so sick. And then it's just like kind of the downs of, well, why can't you do that now? How come you can't do this now? Or how come you're not doing anything like that now? Or, there's always just this kind of constant cycle of just like, I guess that's what you call balance, but a healthy balance, I guess. But I think that when it comes to thinking about things that we feel guilt or shame about in our lives, and the things that we, continuously, I guess, believe throughout our lives, we think of those things as, things that we kick ourselves in the ass for. Like, there's that fucking meme where it's kind of like making the joke. I don't exactly remember what it is, but it's basically making the joke of like, oh, this is what I was doing in 2007 instead of buying a house before inflation. And it's like a 6-year-old kid picking their nose kind of thing. And it just kind of making the joke of like, yeah, there's no way you could have thought of that or afforded it, or, it's like, it's not really possible. And so there's all these things that we did, and it's like, yeah, you could feel guilt and shame and feel like a fucking idiot and a moron for not taking advantage of this thing that was available technically. But it's like, oh yeah, you were also not even close to being able to afford it, nor did anyone expect you to being able to like afford it, nor did you have the maturity to know what a mortgage was or how to deal with like a loss of, this is like something that I have to take care of now and have that responsibility. Like you weren't mature enough, you couldn't afford it, etc. And I think that a lot of the times in life, if you think about the things that we feel guilt or shame about, especially in terms of like I think a lot of the times that I feel guilt and shame about is like, most of the time is like when I was taking things that should have been taken seriously in life as a joke, and things that were super small and trivial, I would take extremely seriously. Like, those are the two times that I think of when I think of, things that I feel shame or guilt for or regret about or things like that. Is like, it's always one of those two things. Like, either I took something that was super trivial and dumb, and I took it way too seriously and acted like a fucking dick, or belittled other people or belittled myself or acted in shame or like kind of this weird anxiety, like, I think you guys get what I'm saying. But then the other side of it is like, and a lot of the time, this is the way I ridicule myself internally, is like thinking about times where I'm like, why didn't I fucking take this time seriously? How come I didn't fucking save a bit more money in this time of my life, or eat a little bit better, or take care of myself a little bit more, or treat other people a little bit better, a little bit more, like there was all these times where I was like, why didn't you take this a little bit more seriously? And I think that it's always kind of like this understanding of like, oh, I should take this seriously, or all right, it's okay to joke around a little bit about this, or be a little bit more frivolous in this way. And just kind of like the awareness of knowing like really what season you're in life, and just knowing like, okay, it's joke around time, or no, it's fucking serious time. And this whole idea got me thinking, like this idea of like neglecting certain areas of our lives, or being too serious, or not being serious enough. And this idea of just kind of like falling into temptation of like, it's tempting to be, spending my money this way, and just having fun and just partying and doing these things. And again, these are the things that we start to feel guilt and shame about. And I think that a lot of us, these dark times in our lives, or maybe not as dark, but they just kind of prolong themselves a little bit too long, where it's just like, yeah, I've been in this gray area for 14 months. Like, it's not like one super bad day. It's just like kind of like a bunch of average fucking days over and over and over again. These times in our lives that we feel shame for, or regret about, or like time wasted, or whatever it could be. Maybe we fell into addiction. Maybe we were just a not great version of ourselves. Maybe unemployed, out of shape, in a bunch of debt, like whatever it could be. These things that we feel the most amount of shame about are actually the one thing that can give us the most amount of direction in life. Because I think that when we think about great people, we think about influential people or motivational people, we always have this idea or notion that it's like somebody that's perfect, somebody that just like executes and fucking gets shit done, and we think like, oh, this is the archetype. But I think that if you were to meet somebody like that and they were to give you advice, if you're anything like me, you'd be like, oh, but you don't understand what I'm going through. You don't understand the way I feel, or what things are holding me back in life. Like, you don't really get it. But when somebody has actually gone through the darkness and like navigated their way out, whether they do it by themselves or whether they do it by, with help of other people, or a higher power, or whatever it could be, like just the fact that somebody has gone through this dark thing and then made it out, I know for a fact, like, I'm much more likely to listen to that person. And so because we have these things in our lives that we feel guilt about and shame about, things that we feel like we can't even be redeemed for, because it's like, man, I really fucked up. I really hurt this person, or I really hurt myself, or put myself in this bad situation, or put someone else in a bad situation. Like, I fucked up. It's like only the people that go through that and then make it out the other side are the people that are going to help other people. And so the fact that you have those types of things is actually a strength for you, in a way that you can actually use. If it's always something that kind of makes us feel more isolated from others, because we're trying to push it away. But once you kind of embrace it and just like for me, a lot of the time, I just have to like write it down, and then I write down afterwards. I'm like, no judgment. I'm just acknowledging this. Like, this is just a thought that I'm just acknowledging. And once we can kind of just acknowledge these types of things, it actually allows us to, it facilitates better connection to other people. We think always that these are the things that are going to isolate us the most, but really that's the bridge to other people of like, this is a source of my pain, and maybe this is how I overcame it, or maybe I haven't overcome it yet, and I'm willing to listen. I'm just like, I'm out here and I'm willing to listen. It's crazy how much more you can connect with others when you kind of start to acknowledge, not overcome, but just start to acknowledge the things that you feel bad about. And, a lot of people will relate this to like validation and like validating or whatever it is. Affirmation. I don't know what that word is. Like, I get it. It feels good to be validated. And that's like kind of what I'm talking about. But I'm not talking about like, hey, I'm acknowledging where I'm at in life and it's a source of my pain. And then, hey, we acknowledge that and then just all good. But it's also like, hey, like I said earlier, like it's also like, hey, I'm acknowledging this and I haven't overcome it yet. So I'm ready and willing to listen. Because like if I knew the way out, I would have done it by now. I think that a lot of people, we forget that so often. Like it's like if you knew the way out of your situation, then you wouldn't be in it. And so if you have a source of pain, like it's kind of time to stop, especially if you've been dealing with it for a long time. Like it's kind of time to stop talking about it, and it's time to start maybe listening and receiving something else. And that's just my 2 cents. So it's kind of something that I've just been like, if you were to read my journal, that's the last 3 pages that I've been writing down. So on that note, I think that that's a beautiful place to wrap this up. It's been a great year. Thank you guys for listening and tuning in and liking, comment, subscribing, interacting as much as you possibly can. Please do that. It does mean the world to me, and I'll see you guys next year. I fucking hate when people say that, but it's much love. Peace out. Love you all. Bye.